What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Real Reds Talk and welcome to your breaking news show. We have a jam-packed show today. We're going to be talking about the new Champions League format. We're going to be talking about Erik ten Hag's future, the tweet that Samuel Luckhurst put out about the injuries and how damning it is for players and certain training methods that they're not happy with, and Amrabat's future at the club as well. We definitely want to talk about that. So, first and foremost, welcome, Sam. How are we?
It's the day after the night before, isn't it? So obviously a little bit, still a bit sore after that defeat. But what can you do, really? You just gotta sort of accept it, take it on the chin, haven't you?
Yeah. I put a tweet out this morning saying Mondays are much worse when it's after a derby day defeat. Mondays are bad anyway, but you add that to it, it's like, ugh.
There was I think I put it in the group chat, somebody described that Manchester derby as a team with no history versus a team with no future.
Oh.
Sums it up, doesn't it, really?
It is painful. It is extremely painful, that. Which obviously leaves us 11 points off Europe now, basically. Well, 8 points off Tottenham if you want to count 5th place. But, I mean, chasing for 5th place is pretty embarrassing as it is anyway. We actually want to discuss the new Champions League format. It's been released today. I'm still trying to get my head around it to a certain extent. I mean, Samuel probably understands better than I do. Because I'm a bit when it comes to things like that. But I'm going to explain it, how it works, and I want everybody else's thoughts as well in the comment section. Talk to me. Do you think this is good for European football? Do you think it's too many games? Any kind of thoughts, feelings you have, get in the comment section, and we'll certainly discuss it with yourselves. Now, so a 32-team structure turned to a 36-team league in each competition. Each team will be drawn against 8 different opponents, 2 from the each 4-seeded pots, playing 4 at home and 4 away. Are you still with me so far?
Yeah.
Okay. So the ranking, teams that finish from 1 to 8 qualify directly for the round of 16. Teams that ranked 9 to 24 must face each other in a knockout playoff round to join the top 8 in the round of 16. And then any teams who are ranked from 25 to 36 are eliminated from all competitions. So that's how the kind of league's going to work, and that's how the league is structured. Then when you get to the knockout phase, you've got one extra knockout phase, because previously it was round of 16, but there's one before that called KO or something like that. All ties are contested home and away with a single leg final. And the statement they released on this, Sam, was the new change will ensure fast changing and unpredictable standing, more matches between equally ranked teams so we can enjoy top class matches right from the first day. What are your thoughts and feelings on this new format?
Do you want my cynical conspiracy theory review, or do you want what I think they're putting out there in the marketing type thing?
Cynical, always.
Okay. It's about more matches, which means more money, which means more advertising revenue, which means more sponsorship, which means they get more money in their pockets. That's kind of what it comes down to. So if you could put, like, when you get a group stage and it's random, you might end up with a group where it's like Real Madrid and Shakhtar, Maccabi Haifa and Copenhagen, and you're like, well, this is the Champions League. It's not very sexy, are they, those ties? But
I heard Andy Mitten describe it before as Bag of Chips FC.
There you go. So you're like, it's not very sexy when you're trying to market the Champions League to mass audiences, and they're obviously trying to grow this thing even bigger than it already is. So it's not very sexy when you've got like Real Madrid against Maccabi Haifa, and then people are like,
yeah,
who?
Who the fuck is that? Sounds like our second name spelt wrong, doesn't it?
Yeah. So it's not very sexy. So they're just kind of like, right, how do we market this? So they watch the group stages, then they watch this, then they watch everything. How can we do that? Right, we need to get the big teams to play each other more often and earlier in the round. That's basically what they've got with this. So the way I understand it is there's going to be a league table, and then teams are going to be seeded based on historical performance in the Champions League, I believe, your position in the league, where you finished over the last couple of seasons. There's like loads of different factors into it. So basically you'll end up with like Real Madrid playing City, playing Inter. Are they Inter at the top at the minute in the Italian league? Yeah. Playing Inter, playing PSG right in the beginning, because all the top teams will play each other. And then they'll also play random teams probably in the middle, but then they'll avoid the bottom seeded teams. So on the plus side, if you want to sort of look at what the positives they're doing, on the plus side, everybody gets to watch these big, giant games against the big teams, sexy football. Everybody gets to enjoy massive games all the time, constantly. And then the other side of it, the lower teams are not getting battered every single time in the group stage and never making it out. They get to play teams their level, at their standard, and then they have an opportunity to advance into the next round, despite the fact that they've got all these other teams things. So that's the positive side of it. The actual side of it is they want big, sexy games so they can sell more advertising revenue, so more people can watch it. They get more money, and it wouldn't surprise me at some point they try and host some of these games outside of Europe. It would not surprise me. I think that whether it's like Miami, into Miami Stadium, whether it's in Saudi Arabia,
Saudi,
do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me if that's what's coming down the track, like I think. But then you got to look at the concerns as well. It's just like players are already fallen apart with the demand of games that we've had in the most recent years. Like we had a season at United. If you just take United, for example, we had a season of 62 games, and you've seen the result of that in a minute. Our players are just falling apart. And then on top of that, we had a World Cup right in the middle of the season. So it's just like you have this truncated season plus a tournament in the middle of it. Players are getting injured. Players are getting absolutely like knackered and tired. And now you're putting more games on top of that. And I don't imagine the tournaments are going to get less. I imagine they're going to try and do more frequency of the Euros, more frequency of the World Cup. I know there was talk every 2 years, blah, blah, blah. So you're just going to get more and more games. You're going to get more players injured. And to me, it's bad news all around. But it's more money in the people who run UEFA's pockets. And that's kind of all they give a shit about, really.
Yeah, there's a couple of interesting angles on this, isn't there? Because you can look at, with the amount of games they're going to be playing, teams are going to have more kind of deeper squads. And that kind of leads to the question, like, which teams do you think will benefit most from the alterations of this kind of format?
Well, you got to think City have, because they've got such a deep squad. They got a really deep squad, and you saw it against United. Like, who did they bring off the bench, and then who did they bring off the bench?
I can't remember, but their bench is stacked in it in comparison to ours.
I think they brought Julian Alvarez.
World Cup winner.
Yeah, like, for fuck's sake, like, do you know what I mean? And we're bringing Forson off and Anthony. It's like, not great. So I think teams like that are going to obviously fight. I think Real Madrid have got quite a deep squad, from what I understand. You got Valverde, Vinny Jr., Rodrigo, Mbappe might be joining that crew. Who's the guy they got up front a minute? Brahim Diaz. Got their midfield of Camavinga, Bellingham, Cruz is still there, Modric is still there. Your boy Tchouaméni. Like, they've got a big deep squad. So you got to think those sort of teams, it's just going to benefit their teams. PSG just stack players like it's going out of fashion as well. They just buy whoever the fuck. I think if Chelsea got their sort of recruitment right, they could probably benefit if they ended up in the Champions League, because they seem to have a shit ton of players every single year. So yeah, it's going to benefit those teams. And if you want to look at it again cynically, I don't think United will have to worry about it next year, because we're not going to be fucking in it, so it doesn't really matter, does it?
Well, we're going to definitely get onto that very, very shortly. So to United fans who are in the chat saying, talk about United, we'll get onto that very, very shortly. Just a couple more things on the Champions League format. And do talk to me as well. Leave your comments and I'll get to them very, very shortly. Do you think these kind of changes are going to lead to more surprises or underdog success? Or do you think, again, it'll be more of like a monopolised kind of thing where either way the big teams win? Does this give any kind of wiggle room for the smaller teams?
On paper, it does, because they play each other, so they've got more of an opportunity to advance because they're playing teams their level, which means they theoretically can beat them easier, or there's more chance for them to win, rather than if they go up in the group stage against, like I said, Real Madrid, PSG, all that sort of stuff, where they'll just get battered. I know there's the odd upset and stuff, but for the most part, when you look at Champions League semi-finals, quarter-finals, finals, it's usually the same customers, isn't it? It's usually the same people. It's normally Madrid. It's become
almost predictable and boring at the moment, isn't it?
It's normally Madrid. It's normally City. Chelsea normally do quite well. Bayern, usually, So, like, it's normal suspects. There's occasionally a bit of a throw-up, but not many times. So, on paper, it does, but I think UEFA was scared by this Super League thing that happened a couple of years ago. And the clubs, the big teams like United, Real Madrid, Juventus, all that stuff, they realise they have the power, because the club is the brand and the club is the things that people want to see. People associate United with the treble, to the other Champions League win. They associate Real Madrid with Champions League success, and Galacticos, you associate Juve with dominance through Europe in the early sort of 2000s. So they have this association. So they realised they were the power. That's why they tried to break off and create the Super League. I think UEFA were worried slightly about that, so they were like, okay, let's make adaptations to keep them happy and keep them in our league.
Almost.
Yeah, keep them in our league, but we still maintain the notion of control, and they're still under our umbrella, so we still get some money, because obviously they'd lose out on money if they go create this Super League without them. They lose all their big players. So I think it's a combination of that. It's basically going, well, we want this, and then the other guy and the UEFA are like, well, you can't go do that, but what we'll do is we'll change some things to make you guys happy if you stay with us, and then everybody basically gets a part of the money. But there's rumours the Super League's still alive with the Spanish and Italian teams. I don't know how far they would get without the Premier League teams, to be honest with you, because it's essentially just another La Liga.
They're doing it because they're broke, though.
Yeah.
They're absolutely broke. That's why the only reason why they're doing it. But teams like Barcelona and Juventus are fucked financially. So that's why they're pushing it, because they're like lining their pockets.
So maybe they get some more money out of this because they're playing big teams like Madrid and in Juventus's case and stuff like that. So maybe they're getting more money out of this. So who knows? At the end of the day, if you're wondering why they're doing these things, why they're changing things, it's money. That's all it comes down to.
It's funny, isn't it? Because the Premier, like the way Real Madrid and Barcelona and these teams and even Juventus are all saying like the Premier League's going like this now. They're all taking off. They've got the highest wages. They've got the most competitive league, so they're getting all the share of the pot and the money. And it's like, I think it was Jamie Carragher actually who said it about Madrid, saying you've been doing this for fucking years. You and Barcelona have been doing this for years, especially in your own league.
Serie A did it in the late 90s, early 2000s. Yeah. Italian football during the is probably a bit young for you, but on Channel 4, Italian 90 was one of the biggest shows on the planet. You had amazing talent, like David Trezeguet, AC Milan's domination with Shevchenko, Maldini. Do you know what I mean? They were doing it back then, and it's cyclical. Football cyclical. Like back in that part, we had people like fucking Rory Delap, and do you know what I mean? Like there wasn't a lot of sexy players in the Premier League. Now all the best players are here, all the best coaches are here. The Bundesliga has always been pretty much a one-team league, hasn't it? Really, like it's been Bayern for the most part over the last 15 years. I know Bayern
French league, PSG, really, in it. Like
so, that's another reason. It's just like if it becomes a one-team league, it's kind of not interesting. There's no jeopardy. Whereas in the Premier League, there's normally 2, 3, sometimes 4 teams going for the league every year, so there's a bit of jeopardy in there. So that's another reason. But yeah, it's cyclical, and I'm sure in 15, 20 years, maybe the Premier League isn't the top club in the world. Maybe La Liga has a resurgence. You never know. That's the way things go.
Yeah, I'm going to dive into some comments because there's quite a few. United won't have to worry about Champions League. We're lucky if we get the Conference League.
Yeah,
absolutely. I'm concerned about the injuries, but not at the cost of questioning running. I mean, it's funny and ridiculous. What they want, no running in football. Let's see how that works. A very good point, Shrinder. There is running, and then he's running for punishment. I hate Erik ten Hag does overdo the running part with the amount of players we have had injured this season. You need to question the training. 4 managers, same players, similar issues. How on earth people question Erik ten Hag now? Everyone wants to be the best ever lived, but no one wants to work the hardest. Some fucking fantastic comments. I can't disagree. TJ Moran in the chat saying, good evening, lads. And then Charlie saying, I don't think Juventus is part of it anymore after the board changed. Well, there's all sorts going on. And the landscape is significantly shifting in football as we speak. And shifting for Erik ten Hag as well, Sam, because I know we had a bit of a back and forth on Twitter about the situation with like ex-players coming out and saying certain things and saying, oh, well, you know, the decision might have been made already. In general terms speaking, do you think like the writing is on the wall for Erik ten Hag at the moment?
I think he gets to the end of the season no matter what. I think that I don't think he gets, unless we lose every single game heavily for the next, how many games have we got left, like 11, 10? Whatever it is, unless he just gets absolutely battered in every single game and it just is an absolute horrific run. I think he gets to the end of the season regardless. I think he gets there. In the summer, I think there's going to be a conversation. I think Ineos basically using this season now as his audition to see if there's anything in there that they think, all right, there's stuff that's gone on, obviously with the injuries and the takeover thing that was going on, and then obviously the issues with Greenwood, Ronaldo, Anthony, like the list goes on and on and on. So I think they're using this as an audition to see if there's any green shoots that they can work with going forward. And if he does get a reprieve and gets next season, I think he's got next season, and then that's it. If he does not deliver something or progresses because we expected this season, after winning a cup, being in a cup final, finishing third, we expected not to win the league this season, not to challenge, but to take a step up, make that next leap forward. And he hasn't done that. Now, there's obviously contributing factors like we've just been through with injuries and what have you, but I think next season he has to show some sort of progress if he gets to carry on. If he doesn't, then I think, before January he'll probably be gone. And I think Ineos, I wouldn't be surprised if Ineos have spoken to people, maybe Graham Potter, maybe De Zerbi.
They would have had preliminary talk.
I'm sure they've spoken to people. I'm sure they've sounded out some stuff and worked out like how people would feel about coming in, blah, blah, blah. So I'm sure there's stuff going on. I listened to Paddock the other day. Apparently, I don't know if it was after the Nottingham Forest game or maybe it was before. Apparently, Ten Hag had a 3-4 hour chat with Ineos. So I imagine some stuff was aired out there and some stuff was spoken about. And I think if they're going to have that 3 or 4 hour chat and there's been no indication since, besides these players coming out about his future, I imagine that's what was talked about. So you got to the end of the season, we'll look in the summer and see what's what, and then we'll decide from there. But I think he stays to the end of the season no matter what, in my opinion.
It's funny, isn't it? Because we were just talking about the Champions League, and I imagine that's going to, usually on average, I think you get about £50 million if you get it like an extra 50 million quid. But obviously with this new format, more money involved. Yeah. Ineos are definitely going to be looking at that and going, look, if you want a chance to kind of, redeem yourself, Champions League right there. If you manage to nab that, these discussions, we can talk. Because it's going to affect everything, hugely. So I think Erik ten Hag knows that as well, and I almost feel like he's feeling the pressure a little bit. You know how he's kind of snapping in certain press conferences when he's being asked questions.
He's in survival mode. He's definitely in survival mode. Like you saw certain managers, like Klopp and Arteta, when they were going through that difficult spell, they were just trying to eke out results just to stay in the job long enough to then be able to influence recruitment, influence style, get the way of playing going. And they went into survival. Like, you remember that whole Arteta out thing, didn't you? Remember when he went on that miserable run? Like, didn't he lose 8 games in a row or something like that? It was horrific. So I think that's where he is at right now. I think he's just trying to get to the end of the season and trying his best to get the results, to get the Champions League qualification or get as close as he can and just see how far he can go in a cup run. I think that's all he's doing right now. I don't think he's even thinking about style of play, to be honest with you.
Yeah. A couple more comments. I don't think I've already read that out. There is a 40 million parachute on Erik ten Hag. He gets to see out his contract. That's another thing to discuss as well. Ineos, either way, financially going to be fucked if they don't get Champions League, and then if they get rid of Erik ten Hag.
And then they got to pay for the new manager as well.
Exactly. And then he may want a whole wave of new players. Yeah. So it is a tricky situation. It's a very good point now. Teresa Corcoran says, look at the Premier League stats for the injuries. Other clubs are just as bad. I wouldn't say other clubs are just as bad. Maybe Chelsea and Newcastle, I would say, are close to us. But when you talk about significant players being out in the positions that we need and depth, like you talk about Chelsea having injuries, look at the fucking depth. They've got about 30 odd players. They're fine to bring in players, quality players, or what are supposed to be quality players.
Thing is as
well,
we didn't have the depth before the injuries. We were thin before the injuries. We had one striker essentially because Martial's not fit, and we brought in a 35-year-old Johnny Evans as centre back cover because we couldn't afford to go out and get a centre back. And he was just, and then you know what I mean. It's not good from the start of it. And now everybody's going about Liverpool. Oh my God, they're horrifically injured and stuff like that. And it's just nobody mentions United. Nobody mentions it.
Well, Lewis just put there. Liverpool basically had a full starting 11 out, and they're just as bad as the kids are decent, unlike us. But the thing is with that, Lewis, I mentioned this on the show the other day.
7 years he's been.
Klopp
9
has
years.
had 7, 8 years, 9 years, whatever it's been now. These kids have been fed Klopp football, quite literally since he was 11, 12. Yeah. Look at the players against City yesterday. They're all fucking Ollie's players, Mourinho's players,
Van Gaal.
A couple of the ones on the bench are ones that... He brought Amrabat in, who we're going to talk about in a minute, for £1 million basically, and we were struggling to get that just because he needed someone. Yeah. So, he hasn't had the time yet to kind of integrate the style of play into the younger kind of generation that are coming through. And if people talk about younger players that we have not performing or whatever, our 3 best performing players this season, Højlund, Mainu, and Garnacho.
Two academy prospects and a transfer that Ten Hag brought in. and people say he's got his transfer is wrong. It's like, well, Højlund's worked, Leach has worked.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean? So like, he can't have got everything wrong.
Mount's been out all season, which isn't his fault.
No.
You know. So
and
I don't know, man.
Like, we can talk on Shaw and stuff like that. I'm like on injuries and stuff like that. He's one of his best players. He's been out intermittently throughout the season. We've had a brand new goalkeeper. Like, you know what I mean? Like, any time United have got a new goalkeeper in, it's fucking chaos every single time. When Schmeichel left and we had like Barthez and Bosnich and all these, like, it's just fucking chaos until we found Van der Sar. It's like, okay, it's all right now. We're all right. And then the same.
He's doing all right at the minute.
No, he's doing. That's what I'm saying. He's finding his form. Same with De Gea. His first season, he was fucking abysmal. It was terrifying, and then he became the best goalkeeper in Europe. So shit takes time, man. Like, it takes time.
Yeah, don't get it twisted. After that Galatasaray game, I was like, "Oh no, fuck off! I've had enough of you." But you know, you have time to settle, let your emotions kind of think.
He was at fault.
And he's been doing all right.
He was at fault. Champions League. I'm sure himself, because he seems like an honest guy, and he seems to admit straight up, it was his fault. And the only thing you can do is then put in better performances going forward. And I think he has done that over the last couple of weeks. Like, I think he has.
Yeah, I agree. Right, we're talking about injuries there, so we might as well dive into that whilst we're at it. So Samuel Lucas put something out on Twitter before. There was a couple of things. He said, a minority of Manchester United players are concerned about the running demands. I could probably guess them players, to be honest with you. About the running demands from Erik ten Hag. Some players believe the intensity is too taxing after United's 62-game campaign last season, and the workload has contributed to the club's injury toll. Man United have recorded 47 separate cases of injury and illnesses that have led to a player missing a game this season. Thoughts on that, Sam?
Fucking hell. It's just awful, innit? It's fucking awful. There's another stat that I thought was quite interesting. Against City, that is the 21st different defensive combination Ten Hag has used this season.
Mental.
How is he supposed to build anything from the back when he's changed his defensive unit because of injuries and illness 21 times in the season?
It was funny when people were like going on about the Johnny Evans signing. If we wouldn't have signed him this season, we would have been fucked in a lot of the situations.
Play Casemiro at centre back again.
Yeah.
That's where it'd be at, because you've got Cam Wilder's come through. Like, he hasn't lit the world on fire. He's been all right, but he's not been Kobe Manu, has he? Like, he's not been stunning. So it's like, then you're looking at who else in the defensive? You got that Ethan Williams, Harry Amas, and there's another one as well. But it's just like, these are the guys you got to look to then. It's like 16, 17-year-old kids who Ten Hag's probably only worked with for a season and a half. And it's just like, how much influence has he had over these young lads to get him to play the way he wants to when his first team is in chaos? Like, it's ridiculous, man. I've never known a United team with so many injuries. I've never seen. It must
break the record, innit, for the most injuries in the season.
Even under Fergie, I don't remember this. No. Like, it's just insane. Like, absolutely insane.
I also think we do have injury-prone players as well, which never helps. Someone mentioned before that we still have Van Gaal players. Luke Shaw, Anthony Martial. I think they're the only two left from that era.
No, Lindelof is...
No, Lindelof and Mourinho. So, yeah, a couple of players even from then. I'll get into the comments again in a second. Again, Sam, I've asked you this question before, but I'm more directed towards the chat because I think I remember your answer. But where do you think, this is to people who are watching, where do you think we would be right now if everyone had stayed fit in terms of league position and certain competitions? Please do let me know in the comments section. Does the Region thing now, Sam, look a little bit stupid from Erik ten Hag's part?
So stupid. If it was his decision, if he told them, I don't know if it was or it was a...
Seems a bit premature, doesn't it? Now, looking back at it.
Stupid decision. Like, so stupid. Like, the only thing I could think of is why they did it is that they got a sign that Malacia would be back. That's the only thing I could think of, because...
And then he had another setback.
When he let
him go.
Yeah.
Region,
that's the only reason I can come up with, because you know what Shaw is. Shaw is injury prone. Like, he is. Like, we've been through the stats before. He's had like 70% availability at best for most seasons at United.
Yeah.
And then we let Alvaro go as well on loan to Benfica. So it's like, we had nobody, no cover. And then when you look at the other thing, like Wan-Bissaka's out with a personal injury. Did he describe it? I don't know what the fuck that is. No idea. So Dalot is your only fit fullback who can cover at left back, which would be fine if you had Wan-Bissaka, but you don't. And then Luke Shaw's out, and Malacia doesn't know what's happening and stuff. So yeah, the only thing I can think of is that they said Malacia was going to come back, and then he got another setback. That's the only thing I can think of, because I don't understand why you would let Reguilon go. I know he wasn't fantastic, but he's a fit fucking left back, and he's okay for fucking Brentford. He's all right for Brentford. Like, do you know what I mean? So like, Jesus Christ.
It was a bizarre one, but even Reguilon, to be fair, had his injuries, didn't he? Do you remember? He was out for like a good couple of weeks, and he's naturally an injury-prone player. I just think we've been so fucking unlucky. And if you know the way Erik ten Hag plays, he likes to balance. He likes left-footed players.
Doesn't rotate either.
No, which is why he likes Leach and Luke Shaw there at all times. You've got Varane and then Dalot, whoever it is there. You can see the structure, and when you take two of them away, it significantly changes how you want to set up. And I think for 60 minutes of the game yesterday, he dealt with it for the most part, but then, like we both said, it was just never sustainable, was it? No. Going into that second half. Charlie Mom was saying, after the City game, we took a new record. We have conceded 56 goals, all competitions this season, which is a new record. The old one was 54 goals. I mean, horrible. Even more stats there for you. Dan Rogers in the chat, big up to Dan, saying, we haven't pressed for the last 10 years and suddenly has to launch the Rockets. Then it'll definitely go up for a moment and come back on you. Yep, I suppose that's a fair point. Lewis saying 5th, 4th, because a lot aren't good enough. Again, quality, I'd agree. I think we'd be 4th if we have 90% of the squad consistently. Letting Reguilon go was a crime worthy of a death penalty. A bit harsh, but fair enough. Garnacho has to run on empty. We've got a healthy Ahmad sat on the bench game after game. I didn't think it was Garnacho's best cameo yesterday, but you know, he's been pretty good for the majority of the season. He don't get a free pass.
No. But I think they be the only players who have not had an injury. Is it Bruno, Garnacho, Dalot?
Garnacho.
I think Dalot was the other one, I believe.
Onana as well, but then do you count a keeper? I don't know.
But no, I think unavailability due to...
right, because of AFCON.
Even to AFCON. Of course,
he was out as well.
Yeah, the only players who haven't not been available due to whatever situation is Dalot, Garnacho, Bruno. So that's 3 of your team who've been consistently available. Everybody else has been out with injury, illness, or some sort of AFCON tournament. Every single one of them.
Yeah, shit. Yeah. We was talking about our bench, Sam, and one player I think we definitely need to discuss to kind of round this show off, and I'd love to hear everybody else's thoughts, is Sofyan Amrabat. Apparently Fiorentina are now worried that his transfer value has dropped due to his loan spell, obviously not getting as much game time. First and foremost, your thoughts on him as a whole since he's joined the club, and has he been given a fair crack of the whip, do you think?
Disappointing, for the most part.
Very disappointing. Underwhelming.
I was hoping he would be Casemiro cover and then could play in the 8 when needed. I think he has had a bit of a unfair shake of the stick because he got dropped in at left back in his first ever game, which is not his natural position. He did all right, but like it's not the most positive. Like when you get a new player in, and then your first game is, oh, by the way, you're not going to be playing in the position I bought you for. You're going to be playing left back. It's not the best environment, is it really? Like imagine buying Højlund and then go, oh yeah, you're playing in defensive midfielder. You'd be like, what? You'd be like, yeah, sorry, we need someone to. It's just not helpful. And then when he has played there, there's been moments of stuff, I think, in parts, but never consistent enough. And I think maybe if he didn't have a pre-season, which is a contributing factor, and I think maybe if he had a pre-season and then he got run of games, maybe we'd see something. But it's just the way we are at the minute. It's not a conducive environment for someone to thrive and sort of come in, hit the ground running like most loan players would expect to be. But yeah, for me, it's just not worked out. And it's sad, man, because I really like the guy. I thought he was great for Morocco in the World Cup and stuff, and he had a lot of attributes that I liked, but it just hasn't seemed to have worked. Maybe if the environment was different, maybe if we played him in his correct position, he had a run of games, maybe things would be different. But as it stands right now, yeah, just disappointing, really.
It's always a kind of comparison where like international football doesn't live up to the same repetition in the Premier League. With all due respect, it's completely different intensity, and he was very good for Morocco. He was an absolute, like, for Fiorentina, more creative, expressive, and then for Morocco, just solid in that six, just fucking destroying everyone. And people were really impressed with him, and that's what a lot of people thought we was getting. That's why it's so underwhelming, because it just hasn't worked out like that. I said in the pros and cons that we dropped earlier on today, make sure you go check it out, people, if you haven't seen it already. The Manchester Derby pros and cons, very good, if I do say so myself. But I said on the show today, it feels like both of them, Casemiro and Amrabat, are still stuck in their head in like La Liga and Serie A, because every time you see them dawdling on the ball, they get the pockets picked, don't they?
Yeah.
Consistently. They're standing on it, and it's like bang.
You haven't got the time. You haven't got the time in the Premier League to do that. Like we saw, you remember when Pogba used to do it all the time? He'd get the ball and he'd put his studs on it and try and roll the ball, and then you just see him get it taken off him. It's just like, you can't do that in the Premier League, man. Like you don't have the time to do that.
Yeah. Extremely underwhelming. I think he will end up going back to Fiorentina. Maybe he'll get a move elsewhere and settle a little bit if it's in a bit of a slower league. But I don't think we're going to end up signing him. I think it'll just turn out as another kind of failed loan, which probably goes into the same category as your Sabitzers and your Weghorsts and these kind of guys. So again, yeah, disappointing.
Likeable characters. Like, I loved Weghorst. I loved the emotion that he showed and the drive and stuff.
Quality weren't there.
Quality's finishing wasn't there. Sabitzer, really liked him, but injury prone, just couldn't stay fit. Yeah. So it's just like, this is what United are going to have to look like in transfer in the summer. Need to look, there's a couple of factors. One, quality. You got to make sure the players are the right quality. B, that they're not injury prone, like they've got a record of like staying fit and not major injuries every single season. And then C is the attitude and the application. They're the three things, because every time we've bought someone in the last 10 years, one of them has been an issue for us. And it's you can't build a team that way. Like, you look at how Liverpool built a team twice. You look at how City have built a team and stuff. Like, they don't buy players who let them down on one of those fronts. If they do,
they also don't loan players for £1 million.
But like, if they're not good enough, they're gone. Like, it's over. We keep hold of these players. We stockpile them for some reason because there's value in them. It's ridiculous, and I'm hoping Ineos tear all this shit up and start again, because cannot continue like this.
Well, I think that's the perfect place to leave it, because Amy Rourke has just become a Real Red Ultra member again. So I appreciate you, Amy. Thank you very much. As always, there is a video dropping this week. Sam literally just mentioned then, that's why I said it's a perfect segue. Ineos Summer. A members video dropping this week on the summer, what we think it will look like, what kind of players we'll be targeting, what market will we be shopping in, all that kind of stuff. A lot of depth in that video. So if you are a Real Red Ultra member, and there's a lot of yous in the chat, then make sure you check that video out when it drops later on this week. If you want to become a member, click the link in the description. I don't know if Sam's put that in, or that might have been...
No, that's the pros and cons in the chat.
Right, okay, so the pros and cons, please do go check that out as well and let us know your thoughts. And yeah, there's always a link in the description, or you can click the join button next to the notification bell. And turn the notification bell on as well if you can, just so when we go live, it'll just notify you and you can just tap the screen. All good. Anything else, Sam?
Dan mentioned in the chat, where is it? Wherever Sam is wearing his potential third kit for next season. This is a goalkeeper jersey from, I think it's 19... Yeah.
So Michael, wasn't it?
Yeah, 91, I want to say. Yeah.
Yeah,
early fucking gorgeous. And I love it.
Yeah.
This is back when United were actually good. Sorry, Dan.
I actually wanted that, and then you got it, and I was like, oh, well, we can't both wear it, so, yeah. Fair play to you. Yeah, we'll leave it at that, guys. Take it easy. Hopefully Monday hasn't been too stressful, and of course we'll be returning tomorrow for another lightning news show, and then loads of stuff towards the back end of the week as well. Members video, interviews with certain guests, and a preview as well for the Everton game with my friend who's an Everton fan, Alex. I think
that'd be interesting
for sure. Take it easy, everyone. Love yous all. See you in a bit.
Peace.
We want plays out, and we